day after a busy day, So we're going to have some fun time listening and discussing with Dr. Aline Charabati. Dr. Charabati is a very uh, accomplished colleague. She's an assistant professor at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and clinical director of Inflammatory Bowel Disease Center at Johns Hopkins Sibley Memorial Hospital. She's a strong advocate for diversity in GI, women in medicine, and mainly work-life integration. She participated in many advocacy days on the Hill, diversity committees, and on advisory boards, and she has published on the topics of women in GI, and she has been a board member of Women in Endoscopy. So today she's going to talk about how to identify imposter syndrome, and we'll have a fun discussion on this.
Rupa, thank you. Yeah, thank you for this very nice introduction. I'm excited to be spending my evening with amazing women in GI. I mean, I wish we could do this over drinks or coffee, but I'm really happy to be here. And I see many names that I recognize, so I'm excited to be joined by friends and colleagues and people I know, and I hope to get to know soon. So, I would have loved to have this, personal, in real life and have the interaction, but I really hope that we can have a nice discussion after this. And I'm no expert in imposter syndrome, and I will tell you which type of imposter I identify with most. But I think this is an important topic to address, to really recognize that it's there. It's part of, it could be part of who we are, but mainly that it is part of one of the barriers that prevent women in medicine and women in GI advancing their career. And earlier, before we started, we were discussing with a colleague that, there's a difference between an imposter syndrome and just being a conscientious person. And I think as physicians, having, a high stake job, taking care of people's life, it's normal and it's good for us to question ourselves. Do I have the skills? Do I have the talent? Do I have the knowledge? Because when we stop that, this is where we're going to slack and make mistakes. So it's always good to reassess in a healthy way. When it becomes a barrier and a blockage, this is when it's not healthy. And this is when we're talking about imposter syndrome. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And here we go. All right. Okay. So as we all know, women in GI face many, many, many barriers in terms of advancing their career. The good news is that we're seeing more women going into medical school, and almost 50% of medical students are actually women, which is how we want to represent our population, right? If 50% of our population is women, we want our physician force to represent the population that we serve. But as you see here in this, this was a very nice article that was published in TIGE, showing all the barriers that prevent women from going to more advanced career and successful careers. So already in fellowship, for GI fellowship, we see less women, around 40%. Early career, most of women are still there, but as you move to mid-career and senior career, you're seeing less and less women. And so there are many external barriers to advancing our career as women in GI, anywhere from the extra time commitment, the, often unbalanced burden on women to be the caregiver of their family, their parents, their children, etc. Being in a competitive fellowship like GI, maybe requiring extra steps that maybe we don't feel prepared, or other people don't give us the chance to be prepared for. But again, and this is not the topic today, but there's many external barriers, including, unequal opportunity to accessing leadership role, to being, selected for certain position. What I hear from fellows sometimes, even things as simple as being selected to do an advanced procedure, right? We have less women being selected in their fellowship to maybe take care of more difficult or complex patients. So there is a sense that throughout our career, there are external barriers to us advancing our career where we want to be. But there are also internal barriers, and this is where imposter syndrome is, an internal struggle. And what imposter syndrome is that feeling that we don't deserve, the next step. We have not earned our professional success. So we got here by chance, for some reason, that we don't have the right skills and knowledge and ideas or qualification to either be a GI fellow or a faculty, or to apply for a promotion, or to be part of be a board member, or chair a committee, etc. That we don't have the right qualification, and that others are more deserving than us and are more knowledgeable, but also that others know that we're not good enough. And this is really different from being a conscientious person and a fair person who, we always say, as a gastroenterologist, or as a physician, we need to know, our limits, the limits of our skills, our knowledge, keep learning, etc. That is different. That's a healthy way to kind of reassess where we're at in our career, versus these are more pervasive belief, like this really feeling that we're not good enough. So there's different way to, that women can feel inadequate in a profession that is male dominated. That is even more amplified if you are part of an underrepresented minority and a woman. Imposter syndrome often happen in high performance position, like being a gastroenterologist, and during times of transition. So if you're acquiring the next step in your leadership, or if you're moving to a different job, or you're going from being a fellow to faculty, or moving into your career, this is when there's this questioning. And what often happens is after that, we develop these dysfunctional behavior to overcompensate that feeling of being inadequate. And that can go anywhere from saying yes to anything that's offered to you. That, if somebody tells you, you want to be part of this committee, you want to write this paper, do you want to cover extra call, do you want to, sit on the RIB committee, etc., you'll say yes because you want to either show that you're good enough at doing everything, or you're so excited that somebody's asking you to do something that you don't feel you're qualified enough, that you say, you know what, I'm going to take that opportunity because then it might not present itself. So there's a lot of dysfunctional behavior, and we'll talk about this. But overall, this kind of behavior to compensate for the feeling of inadequacy are actually counterproductive, right? So if you're not doing things in a purposeful way, in an intentional way, you're actually getting yourself busy with things that are not aligned with what you want to do and how you want to see your career progress. And you might miss on true opportunities that help your professional growth. And of course, we all know if we're doing too much, we're not going to be happy at work or at home. So these are different behavior to overcompensate this imposter syndrome. One is you have the perfectionist. This is a person that set very high standard for herself. And I'm sure in our audience today, we have these high achiever women that set high standard for themselves, and they want everything to be perfect, right? So then the default there is micromanaging. So you're really paying attention to every little detail, which is not bad in itself, but when it becomes too much, it's too much. And you're obsessed by any small mistake you make. So instead of seeing the big picture, you're really focusing on details. And this can really, make you get stuck into the small task, as opposed to learning to delegate, to work as a team, to really lead a team and really oversee things that will help you advance your career, or lead, kind of grow into your passion. So for example, if you're writing an article and you're obsessing about every little detail and you want to do everything yourself, it's going to take you a lot of work, adding a lot of work, to yourself, versus if you collaborate with a colleague, with a fellow, with a resident interested in GI, they're doing different parts, you're overseeing, you're making everything fit properly, then you have a good product and you didn't exhaust yourself in the process. And you were actually, instead of being in the small world of micromanaging, you're actually seeing the big picture and being part of the big picture and allowing other people to be part of the big picture. Then you have people who are kind of waiting to feel like they're absolutely ready to commit to the next step. They're looking for absolute expertise. We're going to do more training, more experience, go to more CME conferences, get more skills. Once I publish 5 papers, then I'll apply for this. Once I, being part of the member of the ACG for 6 years and been to all their courses and women development, maybe I'll apply for that committee. And so what happened is that you're constantly accumulating more training experience, experience, but never really applying to what you want to apply. So you never feel you're ready to get that leadership position, that promotion, or implement your own ideas. All right. And those things get lost and you're wasting time. The other kind of dysfunctional behavior is self-reliance, saying, you know what, I can do everything. I'm going to prove to everyone that I can do everything on my own. And this is how I'm going to prove my worth, right? So that if I can handle all those projects, all the patients, inpatient, outpatient, writing protocols, doing all these things, managing my home, my kids, my parents, everything, I'm going to show everybody I can do it all. I'm going to rely on myself. I'm not going to let anybody approach me, because also I don't want anybody realizing I might not be good enough or I'm not doing good enough. So if I stay in my own little bubble, I'll be fine. And this really puts you at risk of professional isolation and burnout. You cannot just constantly prove that you can do everything on your own. And another behavior that I've noticed, and I think women sometimes are guilty of, is this unrealistic belief that there's a natural talent to be able to do something. That if you have what it takes, if you have the right talent, the right knowledge, etc., then success should come to you very quickly and very easy. And you should be able to, if you were good at endoscopy, if you're naturally good at endoscopy, you should be able to get to that CECM, as early in your fellowship in less than 2 minutes. If you were made to, be a great, IBD specialist, you should be able to understand all these biologic and how they work, very quickly. So really believing that there are some people that are especially skilled for something, as opposed to really relying on the fact that, okay, there's talent, there's knowledge, but also there's hard work that comes on that. And what happens in this situation is that we are then ready to give up on our goals, on our dreams, if there's any delay or difficulty. So after the first rejection, if you write a grant and you reject the first time, second time, say, you know what, I'm not made for this, I'm going to move on, even if my passion is research. If I apply for a committee and I don't get in, I'm done. If they really thought I was good enough, they would have taken me. If they didn't take me, it means I'm not good enough. As opposed to thinking, well, there's not enough spot for everyone and they had 100 application and I'll have a better chance next time. So giving up on goals quickly because we believe there's a natural talent for successful people. And finally, I think, something that I've seen around, and I'm going to be very honest with you, when I think sometimes people compliment each other, you're like superwoman and etc. But I think that is also such a negative burden on women. There's no such thing as a superwoman, okay? And to try to live up to that myth that we could do it all, professional, personal responsibility all the time and give everything full focus, full attention, full steam, it's just not realistic. Justifying that we are good at everything, that we can handle everything, it's just not realistic. So I'm going to pause here, give you an example. When I was in my first year as faculty, I was pregnant, and actually I had a lot of difficulty to get pregnant. I went through like a lot of things, ended up doing IVF, which was also very complicated. I was finally pregnant. So a lot of emotional and financial input there. And despite that, instead of focusing on, okay, I should really balance my work in a way that I stay healthy and save this pregnancy that I worked so hard on, I was just working extensive hours. I was on call the week before my due date. And it never occurred to me to say, this is not something I should be doing. It was more like, I'm going to prove that I could do it all. It's not because I'm a woman and I'm pregnant that I have to do less than the guys. So really putting this superwoman feeling to ourselves, say yes to everything, and really lose healthy work-life boundaries. It's something that we should be aware of, because that can lead to physical, emotional, mental burnout, and you actually don't gain anything. You end up not being happy at work, not being happy at home. You're never doing enough, and it's important to realize that you have so much time in the day, so much energy in the day, and every day, every week, every period of your life, you have to manage this energy and this time in a way that's smart. So I even saw this on internet, that how to look like a superwoman, appear like this, kind of fake it. fake it until you make it. And I think that is also pressure. Like, we shouldn't be faking, we shouldn't be faking that we're feeling great all the time and you're doing everything. If you're feeling great, show it, share it with everybody, etc. But we shouldn't feel the pressure of being or doing what a superwoman is supposed to do, or faking it. And this is something I had posted on Twitter during Halloween, because my daughter a few years ago really wanted to wear a Superwoman costume, which is great, because I'm like, we're done with the princess, thank God, because that's another myth that that is not what I want in my house. I'm like, no Cinderella and Snow White. I'd rather you be Superwoman. But it really made me think that the myth of Superwoman really is. Can lead to burnout and imposter syndrome, because we're never going to do enough. So the fact that we can do all things perfectly all the time is really a negative ideal. And I think personally that a superwoman is somebody who is fully accepting who we are and our strength and our weakness and our moments of up and down, and it's fine. And this is how we are, and we shouldn't apologize for this. And that is what a superwoman state of mind is, in my opinion. So what can we do? So actually, you know what? Before we talk about what can we do to overcome imposter syndrome, I know this is a Zoom call, but I would love to hear, if I'm going to stop my screen and see if, would love to hear anybody like feeling that, do they identify with these kind of behaviors, or, am I the only one who was stupid enough to be scoping in the OR a few days before her due date and not think this is crazy? I would love to hear your thoughts. And, I know this is a safe space and a safe group. And I think it's important for all of us to share the times where we're like, oh, what was I thinking? Or the time where we feel like we're not good enough, because I think it's important to realize that all of us, at any stage of career, and whether you see someone is successful or, we all struggle with the same thing. So I would love to hear your thoughts and where, your experience with this.
So I do remember, like, when I think when I was assistant professor a few years ago, I was made, the quality officer of a division, which is uncompensated. And also there was no protected time, but my job was to get all the quality metrics for colonoscopy. So basically kind of input everything into GI quick. It was a very manually demanding work to do, because, like entering the path for all my colleagues. It did not even occur to me that I should go and ask them, ask my chairman. I mean, if I had asked, he would have definitely helped. But to say that I need more help, I need a dedicated time, like a half a day, 0.5 FTE, so that I can do this manual work, which a secretary can do. Those kind of things, but it never occurred to me. And just kind of, the same thing, managing the clinical practice at the same time, the house and this, and then there were deadline, like I have to show it to the department, what's our ADR was, how everybody was doing, because it was connected to our compensation, our group compensation. So everybody was looking up to me then. But like for the first time in my life, I was so stressed out. It's like staying until like 2 and 3 in the morning, doing all that stuff. And then like a few years later, my colleague, we hired another colleague who's interested in that. And that colleague makes everything like automatic, gets like 0.5 FTE, dedicated time. Then I'm thinking back retrospectively, why didn't I think about it? Because it never occurred to me that what I'm doing is anything different. It's part of the job. They asked me, so that means that, they have so much trust in me, so I have to do it. But, and whenever they would ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, I'm doing fine. But I would never say how much I was stressed out, how many hours of my personal time I was putting into it, like, to the point. But now I think, those are the examples, like when we hear talks like this and you think about your experience, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that, oh, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Those kind, it kind of gives you perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Rupa. I completely agree. We do tend to say yes to tasks that, would that advance your career? Maybe not. Is it something you're interested in? Then you should do it, but then you should be compensated by time and money and whatever it is that you need to, or get the support that you need. And we often don't ask about these things. And that's one of the things that as women, we're more guilty of not asking for support or help or being compensated properly. And part of it is like, oh, like you said, oh, I must be good, that's why they asked me. And that alone, it seemed to be a justification. And it shouldn't. Any job, extra job, or any work that you're doing, there's a value to it, and we should be able to ask for compensation for the value. Rada, I see your camera is on, which I'm excited. If all of you might be in your pajamas already, please turn your camera on. I'm fine. I just came home from scrub, so you're not gonna look unelegant. But I would love to see your face. But would love to hear your thoughts. Rada, do you have any experience to share with us?
Oh my gosh, I think I have many experiences. I think a lot of the time it is, our beliefs that limit our capabilities, because I know that we all have a lot to offer. And sometimes I think, being in the private setting, am I good enough to I don't know, present or to speak, because I do some pharma speaking now. And when they first asked me, I said, but I'm a nobody. I'm just here in my own little world. But the more I do it, the more I feel like I can do it. And I have a lot to share and a lot of experiences that I think that I can certainly help other people with. So I think it's good.
Yeah, I think, Rada, thank you for sharing. I think you really kind of made several points. One is that, in medicine, there's this, and in GI, there's this academia and private and the researcher and industry as if we're separate entity. And if there's a value to the type of work you want to do, right? And I don't think that teaching or being a good physician is a privilege of academia. It's a privilege of all of us. So, and that's one of the things that I feel like it's important to break those barriers that are artificial barriers is, how you want to practice and in what settings is your choice and what works for your life. And actually there's, good data. I was doing some research to write for an article, and a lot of women go into academia initially thinking that would provide them a good work-life balance. But then they leave more academia than anything else and go to private practice, because in academia, you're often expected to do free work for nothing, or there's also a lot of competition and less support and less pay for women compared to men. But putting that on the side, I think it's very important to realize that our value, we're bringing the value. It's who you are. It's you, who you are as a physician, as a person. That's what you're bringing to the table, to patient, to colleagues, to whatever you're doing. And the type of practice setting has nothing to do with it. And I commend you for overcoming your imposter syndrome and your fear, and go for it and realize that you're actually good at this and you're enjoying it and you're making a difference. You're educating colleagues and making a difference in people's life.
Thank you.
So there was a question here, if I can read. So how do you create a discussion around a healthy work-life balance in a practice which is productivity based, especially when pregnant or pumping, certain physiological things that obviously men cannot do? All right, that's a great question, and I think I'm hoping that we can address it later in the discussion. But I think it's very important is to be confident to ask for what you want, and to realize that at different time of your life, your needs and your ask are different, right? So when you're starting a family and you're pumping and you have young kids and there's your nanny leaves at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. or you have to pick up your kid from a daycare at specific time, that is your priority. And managing your time or asking for things that are, allow you to take care of your family is absolutely important. And what you need to remember is that as a woman gastroenterologist, you're bringing in value to any practice, because 50% of our population are women. We know that women want to be seen by women. And there's a reason why practices hire women, some of them because they believe in diversity and representing the population we serve. But many of them understand that there's a financial gain in having women in a practice, because that attracts more women to their practice. So for me, for example, one of the, like, my non-negotiable is that my start time for endoscopy, and don't tell this to anybody, is not 7, it's not 7:30, it's not 8 o'clock, it's 8:30. Because in the morning, I want to spend 20 minutes with my kids that are now, grown up. But I started this when they were younger, because initially, yes, I have to drop them off at daycare and be in the hospital by 7. It was a nightmare. It was just ridiculous. It was constant stress that I didn't need. And it took me time to realize that I can ask for things. I can say, this is what I can do. This is, if you want to keep me in this practice, this is all I could do. Other people have, maybe, have other resources. This is the resource I have. And I have to start at 8 o'clock or 8:30, or I'm happy to come here at 7. But I have to be out of here by 3:30, and it's okay to ask. And if you're not going to get anything without asking, and framing it. And this is, I'm bringing value to this practice. I'm working hard, and this is temporary. I need, 6 months like this, and then we're going to move on. So your needs and your non-negotiable and what you need in your term of work-life balance is different at different time of life, because as women, we're often taking care of families and having different life events. So it's important to ask. Let me see, there was another question too. As a fellow who is transitioning into a new job at the end of this year, I have started to have the mental dialogue, which I have identified as imposter syndrome. How do I go about identify who would be a mentor figure in my future practice that could guide me both professionally and financially? This is a great question. And thank you for the person who asked it. I'm assuming if they're direct message, they don't want me to say their names, but I'm excited that they're asking this. Again, looking back at my example of like how I was trying to struggle, getting my kid on time at daycare and getting to the hospital early, and then we're, scoping what, while late in my pregnancy, etc. Looking back, I say to myself, I wish there was a woman in my practice. My practice when I started, it was all guys, and they all, and I know we have a fantastic he for she with us today, Dr. Wilson. So this is not bad, going after guys, not at all. But all the guys in my practice had stayed at home wives that would take care of everything. So they didn't realize the juggling that had to happen, except that one time my chief goes, oh my God, my wife went away for 1 week on vacation, and now I have to, how do you do it? How do you get the kids ready in the morning for school? And now I see what a struggle it is. And it took like his wife to go on vacation for him to realize that. But I remember thinking, I wish I had a woman role model, somebody who would stand up for me, somebody who would say, Ali, what are you doing? This is crazy. You need to do this and that. So I think it's important to identify a mentor, whether in your practice or institution or outside. You might not, not all practices, not all institutions have the luxury of having other female mentors. I think that's important. But also, you should have male allies. We need to, this is not a us versus them. This is really trying to create a work environment that is good for men and women, and that is, and that we keep it diverse, so to serve our population. So find yourself, I think a female mentor is very important, and somebody that where your story, where your concern can resonate with, but also male ally within or outside your practice. So keep in mind that a lot of organization have mentorship programs, the AGA, the ACG, Scrubs and Heels. We just launched our mentorship program. So find a mentor and start growing your network of mentors and sponsors that will help you, through your imposter syndrome, but also help you understand the things you can ask for and how you can, adjust your work in a way that fits your specific need at a specific time of your life. All right. Any other thoughts before we move on? Yes.
Yes. So thank you. I feel like you're reading my mind. That was actually one of my questions. So my situation at this point is I'm a, third year. Actually, I'm doing a dual fellowship with GI and transplant hepatology, and I happen to be pregnant with my first baby due April. I'm just not gonna say superwoman, but the thought crossed my mind. I just said superwoman is a bad word. the thought crossed my mind. That's the only way I have found it easy to go day to day is to tell myself that it's okay. I can do it all. I can do it all. But I thank you, first of all, for identifying kind of the things that, the society says about working mothers and how it's kind of, we're put on this pedestal. My question is kind of to pull the women that are kind of more further along in their career. Currently, I'm, job searching, I'm reviewing contracts, I'm asking questions, and my main top priorities, of course, in addition to everything else, is a good work-life balance, because I do want to be around for my child. I don't want to have the nannies and things raise the kid. So there's a few things that I feel a little bit hesitant to ask, like these employers. Some of these jobs are productivity based, and if I need to take 20-30 minutes to pump, or if I need to leave early to pick up the kid from daycare or whatever, and whether that will influence productivity, because those are maybe less patients that I'm able to see for the day, how to navigate that issue. And it is temporary, like you said, but how do I kind of bring that discussion on without seeming like, oh, I just want to get out of work and I just want to go home early, and, making it seem like I'm looking for an easy way out?
This is a great question. I think it's always important to frame it in a positive way, that I want to be as productive as possible within this practice. I want to bring value to this practice. And in order to do that, I have to, I'm a new mom, and I really have to have a work environment that's going to be able to support that. Because what I don't want happening is me being all over, having to run here and there and struggle and move my day around and not be productive when I'm there, or feel like I can't reach this point where I'm doing my work while taking care of my family and give up on my work. So you want to frame it as a way, I would like to discuss with you a good setup so for both of us, we are in a mindset of growth for the practice. I want to help this practice grow. And in order to do that, I need to have this work-life integration element in my practice. If I cannot get to my kids on time, if I cannot be able to have personal time spread during the day, I am not going to be able to be productive and be the best gastroenterologist that I want to be in your practice. And this is temporary, right? So kids grow up, they don't drink milk all the time, but this is very important. If you choose to breastfeed and pump and all this, you should be able to do it. And I just can't, sometimes it's like, I cannot imagine this day and age with all this talk about how to support women, that there will be a practice that will say, no, you cannot pump, or you don't have a private space for that. But there will be, and you don't want to be part of this practice. So I think you want to be in a practice that's going to support you. And I think the way to frame it is because you want to be the best version of you while you're working. You don't want to have to worry that, I have 20 more people to see and I have to be out of the door by 3 o'clock. It's not possible. So to be the best version you can be as a gastroenterologist, you need certain boundaries and work. You need certain personal time so that you can be your best self. And honestly, I think a lot of practice now are production-based, including academic practices. You will produce and they will make money off you with what you're doing. Taking 20 minutes to pump or leaving maybe half an hour earlier than your colleague is not going to be a disaster for the bottom line. And if it is, if your first year of being there you're not top 10 producer, who cares? Who cares? Like you said, now the most important thing for you is your family and the health of your family. And believe me, I learned this the hard way. Like, I did not have this mindset with my first child. I really learned it, as I saw him growing so fast. And with my second one, I was smarter about things. And again, this is where I say, I wish somebody told me. But this is the time of your life. This is the first few months, the first few years are not something that's ever going to come back. A job, you don't like it, you're going to find another one. They don't like you, who cares? They're upset at you because you left half an hour earlier. It doesn't matter. But if your child is upset because they didn't see their mom, that matters. So it's important to reframe what is really important for you, what is really important in the long run, right? And what is really important for the practice. Because if the practice wants to hire and retain women, they have to be ready to make, certain adjustment, and knowing that there are certain life events where we're going to accommodate things. And I think it's important to clarify and negotiate what is the pregnancy leave policy. Okay, so that and it's clear. I think it's very important to negotiate. They don't get penalized for it. So one of the things that some places have been doing, where they have enough women to advocate for that, is that, so you get your bonus by quarters, right? So let's say you're pregnant or you're not pregnant, and you produce, you deserve that bonus every quarter, and then you went on maternity leave. You're not penalized for the whole year that, oh, we looked at your overall RVUs and you didn't make it. But by quarter, you made those RVUs and you deserve your bonus. And the last quarter, you went on your maternity leave, and that's fine, right? So I think it's very important to clarify these things as you are going out there, and really think ahead of time. What are you non-negotiable? What are the things that absolutely are, you want it? What are the things that are okay and that you can negotiate and kind of give and take? It's like, okay, fine, I'll do this for you, but I'll give up on that part, but I want this part. And really frame it is that you want to be the best person, the best gastroenterologist during your time there. And that's why you're trying to really make plan ahead of time, have things implemented in your schedule, so it's not disorganized and chaos.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Can I ask a question about microaggressions? So I'm in an academic practice and frequently have been on the receiving end of microaggressions. Like when I got a grant, my chief says, now, you're going to have to work, right? And it's like, well, what do you think I've been doing for the last 20 years, right? Like comments like that like really like hurt your self-esteem over time. Can you talk a little bit about how to deal with microaggressions? Because when I try to stand up for this, I've frequently been told I'm negative, and I don't know how to change the dialogue so I'm not at the receiving end of this kind of repeated little comments.
Right. So you totally, actually, this is a perfect transition to my next part of my talk, is that imposter syndrome, first of all, is not just in our head. It's not just a problem that we have that we would not raise as strong women or confident women. There's also society pressure, right? With these microaggression, it makes you doubt yourself, right? It was like, was I not working enough? Did I not work enough? Did I not deserve this grant? Did they give it to me just because I'm a girl? So these microaggression are part of why imposter syndrome happens, because that's what we have. And I think it's very important to stand up to microaggression. And one of the trick I learned from someone else, because I'm the kind of person I'll be like, what? I just jump is like, what the hell? And that is never a good thing. I think it's, somebody, kind of share this with me, and I find it brilliant, is actually to pause and look at the person and say, can you repeat that? Let them realize what they just said. What did you mean by that? I might have misunderstood it. What do you mean by that? Did you mean I don't do work? Like, just like pause and have them answer to what they just said. And I think it's important to do that, because this is how we can change attitude. And it's important to do that for ourselves and for our colleagues. If we don't stand up to these microaggression as a group, they're going to keep on happening. And again, when people say, oh, boys will be boys and that's permissible and certain things, that can only change if we say, what, that hurt my feelings. So if they don't realize that they hurting our feeling, or that this is inappropriate to say, and that's hurting our perception of ourselves and our the perception that others have of us, right? Because if someone else hear him himself just saying, oh, now you're going to work hard, it means he's thinking you don't work enough. And for other people, you don't work enough, and you just got this by luck, maybe. So you're going to internalize that thing that's negative. Other people are going to internalize, and then we keep this trend going. So I think I would pause, look a little bit puzzled, and say, can you explain that to me more? Or maybe I misunderstand it. Can you tell me more about this? And then maybe say, this came across, in a very hurtful way. It made me feel like I was not doing a job, and I'm sure that's not what you meant. And that's how I would handle it. And because again, a lot of things that we wish we would just say it as it is, but like you said, women then get labeled as being difficult, hormonal, menopausal, something. So the idea is that you want to stand up for it, and you want to find in your environment also male allies as well as women allies. And I'm going to say, you know, something that is never popular to say, but also women are the ones that give the hardest time to other women. I mean, as a fellow, I suffered, you know, from other, you know, women. And I think it's the group like this, it just shows that there's now a change in mentality, that now the way we want to approach things is that by standing up for each other, by lifting each other up, this is how we're going to make a change, and everybody is going to benefit. It's no longer like the queen bee that I got somewhere, I'm not going to let anybody else get there. It's more like, let's help each other, because this is exactly what's going to drive change and being supportive of each other. So I think these kind of groups where you can bounce ideas of each other and really, like, you know, rally, you know, people to your cause are very important.
Thank you.
Sachi, you had something to say?
Yeah, hi. I'm a PGY2, and actually just on the topic of microaggressions, I had another co-resident who just happened, you know, we're just having the topic of fellowship, and he was like, you know, it's so much easier for girls to match into GI fellowship. You're not going to have a problem. And that kind of made me feel like, you know, I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. And I may be equally qualified and have, you know, more things, have done more things than him. But at that moment, I just didn't know what to say. And how would you react to a comment like that? Because he's also co-resident and he's a friend. And, you know, coming from someone like that, it stunned me. Like I didn't know what to say.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing, because first of all, it shows that, you know, we can't think about these issues as like, this is old school, this is old boys, you know, older men or older women mentality. This is still happening. This is like you're young and you're in your GI fellowship, and this is still happening to this generation that is supposed to be more kind of, you know, where equality of sex is and of all sexes is promoted. So I think, and it's okay to feel like you didn't know what to answer. It happens to all of us. So this is something that you shouldn't blame yourself that I didn't know how to answer, because when something is unexpected from a person that you trust and you feel is your equal comes across, it's normal to be stunned, because you would have never said this to that person, right? You would have never said it's easier because GI is male dominated, so it's easier. And I think, you know, the way he said it made you feel, again, as an imposter, that they're going to pick you because you're a girl and you're a woman and they're trying to have more women, or because women are pleasant. I don't know what he was trying to say behind this, right? So it makes you feel like you were not worthy. So if you didn't have a reaction at that point, it's okay. But what I would recommend doing is addressing it, because when you don't address it, you're going to keep it inside you, you're going to internalize it, it's going to make, and it's going to also affect his relationship, your relationship with that colleague for the next year that you're going to be working with them. But also then if we don't do anything, it's not going to change what he's thinking. So I think I would go back and say, you know, I really, you know, what you said really kind of, you know, made me start thinking. And I was wondering, why would you say that? What would be, why did you say that? Like, what are the things that you feel as a girl would be easier? Because, you know, if you're looking at data, actually, no, you know, a lot of, you know, there's, you know, it's still a male dominated field. Is there any talent that you feel girls have in GI that, you know, other people don't have, or men don't have? Do you feel like women, you know, are better gastroenterologists than men? Like, you know, what is the issue here? And I would just, you know, kind of talk to him in a way that is not, you know, you want to actually make it a productive conversation. That's the whole thing. So, because if you want to really kind of dig into this and make people like see like what they said was really silly and stupid, you have to make it that, you know, you're really trying to understand where he's coming from. And, you know, and then let me tell you how it made me feel and what I think. And I think you should do that. And whether or not this breaks this relationship with your colleague, I don't think it will. It might be awkward for a while, but you know what? I think if he's, you know, hopefully, you know, mature enough, he'll realize that, you know, he messed up and that what he said was just inappropriate. But it's okay to feel like you didn't say anything. It doesn't mean that you're not quick enough, not witty enough, because we are all get in shock when we don't expect things. And it's important to kind of think about it and then go back and address it at a later time. That's okay. All right.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing this. All right. Any other thoughts before we get kicked out of the Zoom call? All right. Well, let me then share my screen again. Hold on. Let's see where we are. All right. So let's talk about, okay, what can we do on a practical level, on a personal level for the imposter syndrome? One is it's important to set realistic expectation and career goals. And it's okay for those career goals to change because life events happen, we opportunities occur that we did not expect, but you just always want to say, okay, this is what I'm planning to do this year. This year, I'm going to apply to become, associate professor. And these are the steps that I need to have. I need to, these are the requirements. And so this is what I want to work on. And if somebody asks me to do work that is not in line to what I need for this year, unless I'm passionate about this, unless something that really resonated with me, I'm not going to do it. This is my goal. And it's always also important to remember that different, early and mid and late, I don't like these words, but also it's part of your, it's intrinsically also meshed with your life event, right? So again, if you're a new mom, your life and career goal are different than, now I have, teenager kids and they don't want to spend time with me more than 20 minutes. So I have time to do other things. So it's important to set expectation, career goals, and to understand that every phase of your life have different goals. And to set healthy professional boundaries, like we talked, think about what is your non-negotiable, what are your priority during this time of your life. And you really want to be strategic to what you say yes to. And if you say no, say it in a way that people will ask you again. I think we're always worried if we say no, if I say no to speaking here, or if I say no to writing this article or say no to be on this committee, I'm not going to be asked, I'm going to be looked at as a, not a team player, or I don't want to make an extra effort. Frame your no. One of the things I always say, if somebody offered me to do a, to talk about a topic and it was really not a good time. I had too many things on my plate and didn't want to add more. And I say, thank you so much. This is really, I have too much, too many other commitments at this point, and I want to make sure if I commit to something, I want to do a good job. But this person, Dr. So-and-so, would be great for this talk. So you actually turn out to be super helpful, right? You told them, you're really grateful for this opportunity. You declining not because you don't, you just don't have time for it. It's really because you can't commit to something more now and do a good job. And you gave them a solution. So people walk away feeling, what, she was really helpful. She gave us another name, we're good. Okay. So something like that. And then like this, you're actually supporting another woman. I'm always intentional to give other women's name, because then you're supporting another woman in GI, because, something that you don't want to do or not interested in doing or you cannot do could be what someone else is looking for. And like we talked before, find mentors, sponsors, supportive network, your Women in GI committee in your society and other societies, in private initiative, really seek a supportive network and seek opportunities. So one of the things to remember is, don't wait until somebody asks you to do something if it's something you want to do. I love it when people reach out and say, if you're writing any article about this topic, let me know, I'll be happy to help. Well, this is great for me. They reached out. I know if I have something to do, I have someone else who can help me. That is fantastic. So seek opportunities, that are aligned to what you want to do. Don't be afraid to go for it. And then really be kind to yourself. Just remember, you're only human. You are doing already much more than most people do. You're a physician, you're a woman. We've heard about people doing double fellowship and juggling a family, etc. You just have to realize that already as a physician going through med school and the step 1, step 2, and then the residency and everything, you have done a lot and you have given a lot. So be kind to yourself and be kind to others. It's only by supporting each other that we're going to make change. And what's key here is really understand your worth. If you don't understand your value, if you don't say, what, I have value within me, my knowledge, the kind of person I am, the way I approach patient, the way I approach research, the work I want to do, that is my value. So we have to be confident of the value we have to have others see our value too. So we can't have our others giving us that credit, oh, you have value, if we don't do it, ourselves. So it's important to recognize what we're bringing to the table and really get comfortable asking for what we want or what we need. Like Rupa said, she know that now looking back, if she had asked for, protected time for a salary to do what she needed to do, she would have gotten that. The next person did get it. She just didn't ask for it. So it's important for us as women to be comfortable asking for what we need and what we want. And you know what? And when something good happens to you or to a friend or to another woman, celebrate it, recognize it, empower yourself with, congratulating yourself. And one thing that I always say, don't compare it to others. Don't say, you know what, I see these women on the podium, they're fantastic, they have it all figured out. Everybody has a struggle. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody, stage of career is different. And you really want to create your own path that really aligns with what you want to do. You don't have to compare yourself to others because it is your happiness. It is your life, not someone else's life. But what I wanted to talk about is that in addition to what we can do internally and personally is really addressing what's going on in the society. And many of you talked about the micro and macroaggression, right? And how women often, are, subject to perception or behavior or wording that is really hurtful and that is really inappropriate and that really lead to, kind of like almost like a desire not to be in this job anymore, right? So you're like wondering, what am I still doing here? And that is a big part of that drives women away from GI, and we don't want this to happen. And it's important also to realize that part of what, imposter syndrome comes from, or our doubt, is the fact that we internalize what society told us what women are and what limited they are, So one of the fellows shared, like somebody saying, it's easier for you because you're a woman, as if otherwise you wouldn't get it if you were not a woman. Or that, we were taught for a long time that women could not be scientists or physician or gastroenterologists because it's hard work, it's physical work, it's long hours, etc. And also there's this image of women that we're going to be smiling and nice and kind and be generous with our time and effort. Again, I'm going to take back Rupa's example that, nobody thought about offering her, money or protected time for this. Like, women would do it. Let's just ask Rupa, and she would do it because she's nice. And she, as a woman, she's just like a team player and she wants to help the practice. And I wonder if in the mindset, if they wanted to ask one of the guys, they would say, well, you know what, he's like busy. And if we're going to ask him to take time away to do this, we should probably compensate him. So there's a different mindset, right? And what is seen as leadership qualities in men are often negative in women, right? So if you're assertive, if you know what you want, if you say what you want, that's great. If you're a guy, this is great. But if you're a woman, you're not a team player, you're abrasive, you're just, you're not in your right mind. So it's important to realize that a lot of our insecurities often come from internalizing what kind of society image has about what limits women have and how they should be and how they should behave. So as we're growing out of this, it's important to find our way out of this, because all these things lead to the fact that also at this point, we're still getting less, less opportunity than men, less pay than men, less support than men. So, and this is again, across academia, private, etc. So if you look at academic packages, women get less support in terms of time and supportive staff and startup funds if they are in research. And in private practice, we see also unequal pay. There's data that keeps popping up showing that there was something like in the lifetime, women make millions less than men in medicine. So I think it's important to realize that and part of the microaggression, I want to point that out, is a little bit also what this nice fellow was saying, is that, we don't want a seat at the table just because we're women. It's because we have value. So we don't want unequal opportunity as like, oh, okay, let's have one woman, one minority on this committee and one this, but we're not going to really listen to them or give them a voice. So so being given like a fake seat at the table is actually even more hurtful than not having a seat at the table. And there's a lot of data out there showing that, women have to reach like a higher, achievement to be invited to speak. There's often, we give women like topics like that are women topics, like pregnancy and liver, pregnancy and IBD, as opposed to big randomized controlled trial results, you see the manuals out there. So there's really these micro and macroaggression constantly making us feel, oh, okay, you're here, but you're not fully here. We're not fully recognizing who you are and what you can do. So it's important to realize that, in addition to personal steps, we really need to empower each other collectively. And these kind of groups, these kind of conversations are, I think, very important for us to connect, to exchange ideas, and to really feel like somebody has your back, right? That if I speak up, I know I can, I know that my tribe is behind me, and they would be like emotionally behind me, and will be there to support me. And I think it's very important to be intentional in making women more visible, to sponsor other women, to celebrate their achievement, to whether it's in your group, on social media, in your practice, to really highlight the achievement of women, and really by doing so, changing the way women are perceived, women in gastroenterology are perceived, and really find allies and sponsors, and hold the leadership of our societies or our practice, our institution accountable to promote women, intentionally promote women based on their value, but really promote them into becoming more visible and being nominated for leadership position, for committees that actually make a difference in their career. And I think it's also important to do that, to set the tone with the next generation, because obviously we're still seeing an issue. And for us who've been faculty for a while, or just starting to be faculty, it's important to be a role model to the next generation, and to show them how to stand up to microaggression, how to be an ally to other women. And I think it's important to do this at home. For me, I want my daughter to realize that she has amazing value, and I want my son to realize that women, and the woman that's going to be in his life, and the woman he's going to be working and interacting with, he needs to respect and show the same that they have the same value as he would see the guys also. So yeah, I think it's important to set the tone both at home and at work to really affect overall change. So I hope to leave you with these words. So this is taken from an article I did with Dawn Sears, that's also from a practice in Texas, and other female colleague on microaggression. And the goal is really, we need to change our own mindset and the tone surrounding us, our environment tone, our society tone. And so we can move from feeling we're imposter, and that's not, we're not imposter. If we went through med school and residency and fellowship, we're no imposter, to really realize that we are leaders in what we're doing, and we can really crave a path in GI that is adapted to how we want it to be. All right. So I think it's up to female gastroenterologists to design a work schedule, career path, and timeline that fits their life journey, their goal, their value, and their needs. And for traditional stakeholders, including training and professional institution and practice, to actively recognize and support women pursuing professional growth while redressing the balance. One of you was asking, how do I ask for this or that? It's important to realize that the career model in GI was set by men, for men. And so as women with life events, with different responsibility, with different interests, it's important for us to really kind of shape our career the way that we want it, because we bring value to that. We all know that anytime somebody brings a new idea, a new way of doing things, it's progress. So I think it's very important to find an environment and a practice that will support that in you, but you also have to bring it, that has to come from within you, to know you're going to support yourself, support your idea, that you can do it, that you have value within you, and you're bringing that value to others. And when you ask for certain things, it's because you're bringing value and you're bringing growth to the whole group in addition to yourself. So I'm going to stop here, and I would love to hear more thoughts from all the fantastic women here with us today. And I see Vanny, and I'm excited. I always follow her on Instagram. I love what she does. Vanny, you have something to share with us?
Oh, it's an amazing topic, Eileen. Thank you so much. The insights are amazing. Just to add to you, because I met you through social media, and it's been amazing to find mentors outside your circle and have sponsors outside your circle. Don't think that you're like stuck where you are. And the other thing is, work is a part of life. So you carve out your life and make it work in such a way that you last in the career rather than get burnt out trying to do everything. That would be what I would add to what you said, Eileen. It's like find mentors outside of your workplace. And it does not have to be just GI. You can have mentors in any or all fields. Network really well. That'll help when you feel stuck at your workplace.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vani. I think it's like you said, if you don't have the right person within your circle, reach out. This is like, I think social media has really changed and Zoom has really changed how we do things. We're able to connect with people that are from a, in different geographical area. And if you find somebody who's like a like-minded individual, somebody that inspires you, connect with them and ask them to be your mentor. It's always a privilege to be a mentor to somebody, but also, and even if you don't have that like connection with someone, just seeing what they're doing can be inspiring. And again, like you said, Vani, like work is part of our overall life, and work will take more place and room and different shape in different phases of your life. Again, the myth of doing it all and having it all the same, it's not. It's this balance. And this balance is going to change into different phases of your life. Within the week, it changes. And you have to make choices. What are the things that work for you, align with you, and give you joy? And what are the things that don't? Bianca? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for an amazing talk. I think, I'm a first year fellow. I'm at Case, Western Reserve University, and I'm currently on an endoscopy block, and we're going up to meet all of our mentors in about a month. And, they asked us for all our numbers for upper and lower endoscopies, and they're doing the ASG like grade points to see like how are we advanced, are we experts yet? And I remember like on Friday, I was just telling my mom, like, I don't know, I don't think I'm like as good as everyone else. And, and I didn't know why I was saying that. She was like digging deep and was like, well, who's saying that? And I was like, well, no one's saying that. And she's like, well, I was like, I'm saying that. And, I think talking to her and like talking to your colleagues and finding other women that you can have support with and remind you like, no, you're doing like what's right. You're like right on track, and having grace and care for ourselves, because we usually forget to do that. And I think like sessions like these, just to remind us, is like really important and critical. Especially now, like it's winter, it's colder, especially in Cleveland, and then we're waking up and it's dark. And so I think like, I was just, as you were talking, I started like writing all the faculty, women faculty in my department, like at UH, our main hospital in the VA. And, we just recruited like 3 new women this year, and they're all like young faculty, and we have just an array. So I feel like really supported in that.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's great. It's great that you're in an environment supporting women. That's fantastic. And you're right. We are our harshest critique. There was a study done, I think it was like, it's quoted in the Harvard Business Review, where for a job application, women to apply to a job, like they require certain criteria. Women wanted to be able to check off all the criteria before they would apply for a job. Men would check off less than half and say, I'm ready. So I think there's definitely something about women that, again, that's perfectionist, that, I'm not good enough. I need all the everything. And we don't realize how, you didn't realize how good you are. You're right on track. And I think that's also, so it's important, like you said, to give ourselves grace, but also it's important for us to support each other, to have, like you said, somebody else telling you you're doing fantastic. That is like, that is recognition. You don't need like a medal, diploma. You just need a colleague that you trust, or a mentor that you trust, somebody that you admire, say, you know what, you've been doing great. And that's what words are so powerful. So I think it's important to give each other those words. That's why I always say celebrate each other accomplishment, because you're making a difference in somebody, like really internally. It's a big difference.
I was also going to say, I think it's really powerful to speak up for yourself and, pause and tell people like, well, what do you mean by that? Yeah. There was an instance that happened last week with like on our consults, we have 2 fellows that are on, and there's a really bad snowstorm. So everyone was late. And he came in like maybe 20 minutes before me, and, he decided to geographically like, split the patients. So he saw all the patients on one side of the hospital, and he came back to our team room. He's like, oh, I'll let you like settle down. I'll go see the rest of the patients. And I was like, what do you mean? Right? There's like 20 patients on the list. Like we split it. Like I'm not any late than normal. Like you just happen to get in here. Like, why would you take all 20 patients? And I said, well, I was like, what do you mean? And he said, oh, I mean, I have no problem because you just got in, you need time. I was like, when do we ever need time? Like we always come in and we see our patients.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you expect to write 20 notes today? And he was like, I could. I was like, well, you know, if you were going to do all the work today, then I wouldn't have come in. And I just like told him, you know, and I was just like, you know, and he's like, okay, fine. But it was just like kind of deterring, like making me feel like I was late when everyone was late. And if I didn't say anything, I think like I would have been upset like throughout the day. And, you know, I just immediately addressed it right then. And I think sometimes it's really hard to do that.
Absolutely. And it takes practice. So the more you do it, the more you're getting good at it. And sometimes you can react on the spot. And like I said, if you don't react on the spot, if you feel stunned, go back later when you calm down and address it. If you don't address it, it really accumulates, right? So you have to address it, clear the air. And this is how you can raise awareness of the fact that, you know, saying certain things is just not appropriate and it's not right.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you. I see Sophia also with us, Sophia Dar. Do you have a few minutes to share with us something?
Yes. Hi. Hi, Dr. Charlie. Thank you so much for doing this talk. I think almost everything you said resonated with how I feel about things. I'm PGY3, so I'm not, you know, I'm not scoping, but there's so many different comments and things that I've felt over my time that have made me feel just about everything that you said. Like just recently, and this was done by one of my junior women colleagues who she asked me why I want to do GI. Why do I want to pursue this? I'm not going to be able to spend time with my daughter, my family. I'm not going to be a good mom like that. And it was so hurtful and painful. Like it's, you know, something that I like to do, but you know, it hurts more when it comes from someone like that. And it stuns you. Like, I don't know how to respond to those things. And then you have to like, it's like what you say, go back, take a second, and then, you know, respond at least to yourself in your head and try to do better next time.
Thank you for bringing this up. I think this is why these conversations are important. I think other people don't realize that, you know, I don't think people say, I'm going to say this to hurt that person. They don't realize that it's hurtful, that it's inappropriate, that it's really kind of perpetuating a, you know, preconceived ideas of what women can or cannot do or how women behave. And I think that's why it's important to have this conversation with men and women, because that's how people realize there's a problem. And again, like I said, I never frame it as women versus men or certain type of women versus other type of women. It's all of us together. And this is what these conversations are for. And just to reassure you, Sophia, as a working mom, of course, you're going to feel guilty all the time that you were not there enough for your kids until you realize that actually your kids look up to you. So when I you know, for my daughter, she would come home every day from school and say, why are you not like one of the moms that, you know, come and do the classroom mom and why are you like, you know, and they come for the Valentine. I mean, they come to all the parties and they're there and why are you working? And I don't want you to work. And when I grow up, I'm not going to work and I'm going to take care of my kids and things like that. So it was so my first response was kind of like not mature response. I said, well, fine, I'm not going to work. But I mean, all these like nice clothes and trips and toys you have, you're not going to have them anymore because we can't afford it otherwise. And she's like, that's fine. You can go to work. She likes her stuff. But then, you know, and I can tell you that, again, I do realize I made mistake with my son where it was so focused on proving myself at work that I did miss important moments. But looking back, and again, this is the guilt, right? We just recently, my husband sent all these like VHS videotape that we would take where the kids to make it digital. So I was looking at all the time I spent with my kids playing and reading and everything. I'm like, I actually was a good mom. This whole time, I thought I didn't spend enough time with my kids, that I scarred them forever. And you look back and you realize that, you know, when you are a working mom, I think the time you spend with your kid is so intense and valuable and true time, right? So you're just there with them, that's what they need. That's what they need. And they don't need us to be with them 24/7, right? So that is for sure.
Right.
And I could tell you that when my kids reach like above age 7, they're all like, oh, we're so happy you're a working mom. We're so, they admire what I do. They love it. They all say, my daughter say, of course I'm going to work. My son is like, of course I'm going to marry somebody who works and who's accomplished and wants a career. And they both say, like, please don't be like with one of those like non-working moms, and not to judge anyone, because everybody makes a choice and everybody need to make a choice like they want. But it's just to tell you that there is a guilt that as a working mom, you're not going to be able to take care of your family. And that is not true. You can be a stay-at-home mom and not take care of your family. And, you could be at the spa all day and do nothing else, right? But I think it's all the value, the quality of the time that you spend with your kids. So don't let anybody tell you your kids are going to be missing out. It's important for us, though, to really have boundaries, healthy boundaries, to spend the quality time we need to spend with our kids. And I can tell you that your kids will look up to you and will be excited. And I see in their project and like the things that they do, like fundraising and things like that, it's coming from, a role model, right? So that you see that in your kids, and then you've accomplished something. So again, no judgment. You could do whatever you want. You can work part-time, full-time, no time, be at home. Whatever you want to do, I think whatever women want to do, they can have a balance and be there for their kids if they choose to have kids. If they don't want kids, they don't want kids. It's important to just know what you want and know that as a working gastroenterologist, your kids are going to be just fine. And my daughter she treats Crohn's and UC as good as anybody else. She knows steroids are bad. She knows the indication for biologic. And my son can tell you the whole thing about pancreatic cancer listening to his dad. So there's something about, they are enriched and everything. And every way of living things is okay, as long as that's the way you want to do it.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you very much, Aline, for this engaging discussion. And I really thanks all the attendees who have spent an hour of the time. And hopefully, we'll see each other again at national conferences, regional conferences, and we will lean on each other and support each other. On behalf of Women in GI Committee for Texas Society of Gastrointestinal Endoscopy, I wholeheartedly thank you all for attending this.
Thank you. Thank you, Rupa, for organizing, and Kai, and for having me. And thank you for all those amazing women who attended tonight. And if you ever see me at a conference, grab me, introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you all.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.